What's the hardest swim set that you've ever done? What's your top 3? Let's talk about this. Welcome back to my classroom. This episode of Cody's Classroom is sponsored by Built Bar. I'll talk more about this at the end of the video, but if you want to get a 10% discount, click the link in the description below and use my promo code Cody10. The hardest set I've ever done. In this video, I'm gonna break down my top 3 hardest swim sets that I've ever done before. And I'm sure a lot of other high-level swimmers get asked this question a lot. It's a reasonable question. What's the hardest set? What's the hardest thing in training that you've ever done before? But I want to point out before we get into this that there is a distinction between something that is hard and difficult and something that is effective. In my mind, these sets that I'm about to lay out for you guys, they're not necessarily the most effective sets. It's not gonna make you the fastest swimmer. People's perception of difficulty, people's perception of what is hard is different from person to person. For me, what I perceive as something difficult is something that challenges you mentally and is something that leading into the set, you're not sure if you're gonna be able to finish, quite honestly. And that's why all of these sets are more distance oriented, because it challenges the mind and the body in a different way that you can't really do with some sprint practices, because you know, race-paced training and sprint training and quite frankly more effective forms of training to help you be a better swim racer, they're short-lived, right? It's short-term pain, and that's okay. But today we're talking about the hardest stuff, and that tends to be more distance-oriented stuff. And so with that, I will lead you into my number. This is in no particular order whatsoever, but I will count down for my top 3. And so I guess my number 3 is the classic, the old school 100 100s. Right there, 100 100s. I've done this set, I believe 7 times, maybe more. But growing up on the Sandpipers of Nevada, swimming for Ron, we used to have to do it almost every year. And we would do it like, you know, I know it's a kind of a tradition here in the United States to do like a hell week around Christmas time, like Christmas training. And usually there's 100 100s somewhere in that week. And a lot of clubs still do that. And I actually really like this set. I hated it when I was younger. I hated doing it. Like doing it in high school, it was just something that I had to get through, and I hated it. Because it was something that I didn't, like I said, I didn't think it was gonna make me faster, but it definitely tested my mental capabilities. It definitely tested my mental threshold for what could I sustain, because once you do something that sucks for a really extended period of time, for me, it makes everything else a little bit easier. Like it makes doing pace 50s and pace 25s a lot easier. You're a little bit more appreciative of it, and the pain threshold is so much smaller after you've done something like that. And so I do think that there's value in doing certain sets like that. It's just the mental test of, can you do it, right? What's the interval that is gonna challenge you? Can you make 60, 70 on a certain interval? Can you make it to 100? I don't know. The fastest I've ever attempted was 105, and I believe I did that my sophomore year of college. So this would have been like 2011, 2012. And I remember making it to like 76, 77, and I started missing the interval. And then I started going on 110 and I finished. But anyway, there you have it. Number 3, 100 100s. On to my number 2. This one is very specific because I remember this day very, very well. I believe I was a junior in high school. It was a Saturday morning practice, swimming for the Sandpipers, and Ron, my coach at the time, rolled out this whiteboard on wheels and wrote "tough as nails" at the very top, and then wrote the set. And it was 10 400s freestyle. It was long course, and I don't remember what the intervals were at the time. And I should point out, it was 10 400s freestyle at the end of the practice. So we would have already swam 6,000 to 7,000 meters, and then we went into 10 400s. And I remember thinking, I basically just completed a full practice. I'm dead right now, and now I have to try and just make 10 400s. And the mental barrier that went up in my brain, I was like, I can't, I don't think I can do this. And I'm glad I went through that. I'm glad I had that holy shit moment before the set, because I knew going into it that I wasn't gonna make it. But it went better than I expected. And it was something that I thought, something was put in front of me that was essentially, in my mind, impossible, and I made it through. And I felt a great sense of satisfaction after, even though I just like laid down for the entire rest of the weekend. Now, did doing a set like that make me a faster breaststroker, a faster swimmer? No, I don't think so. But I do think that it helped build up that mental strength, that mental toughness. Not to like inflate my own ego too much, but I'm very mentally strong. And I think a big reason for that is because I've been forced to work my way through adversity via these mountainous, gigantic workouts that oftentimes are daunting and seem impossible. And I'll never forget, man, doing 10 400s at the end of a workout. To finish a workout, I was just like, oh. And on to the final set. I did this set my senior year of college, I believe. So this would have been 2014. It was like a Tuesday morning. It was long course. We were outside. And I remember my coach coming up to me saying, we're doing 12 400 IMs and it's gonna suck. And the way the set was structured, it was 3 400 IMs, descend 1 to 3, 3 is fast. And then we did 6 400 IMs, short interval, where you just had to make it. You gotta make the interval. And then the final 3 400 IMs, back to a normal moderate amount of rest, but you had to descend those 1 to 3 and make number 4 super fast. And I remember just being so fried and dead, and the thought of doing 12 400 IMs long course in the middle of the week, oh man, that like broke me mentally going into it. But once again, I made it through. And I remember swimming on like the 10th one. I remember, you always hear about when great long distance runners talk about that runner's high that they get. I think that's the closest thing I've ever felt to experiencing it. After finishing number 9, or number 8 or number 9, which was the final short interval one that I only made by like 10 seconds. And then going into the descend, I started actually feeling kind of good. And I finished the set actually pretty strong. But in contrast to where I was mentally 20 minutes prior, just grinding out these long course 400 IMs, I was like in hell. Like I was living in hell. And every single rep, every time I pushed off the wall for another 400 IM, I was like, can I do this? Just make it through one more. Just make it through one more. And I was always questioning myself of whether or not I was just gonna fall off. Like, am I just gonna fall off and miss this interval? Am I just gonna fail? You know, like when you play that game with yourself where fail or no fail, just one more step, just one more rep, just one more 50, just one more 400 IM, even though it takes like over 5 minutes to do one of them. That set was I mean, that's 6,000 meters of pretty much continuous IM training, which is ruthless. So there you have it. That's my top 3 right now. Now, this list is fluid and always changing, and there's a bunch of others that pop up into my mind, and maybe I'll share those at a later date. I did an 8,000 IM straight once, and that has a pretty crazy killer story to it. There's a lot of really aggressive, difficult sets, but I tend to think that the distancy kind of sets are of a bigger challenge just because there is a larger mental roadblock that you have to plow through, that you have to push yourself to limits that, you know, before doing it, sometimes you think is impossible. And I think that there's a lot of value from that. Like, I have grown as a person and learned a lot about myself from some of those horrible training sets. What are some of the hardest sets you have ever done? Please drop them in the comment section below. Let's talk about this. Let's see what are some challenging sets you guys have done. I used to have to do the mile butterfly almost every year. Like once a year, we had to do 1 full mile of continuous butterfly. I mean, you can get creative. There's a lot of stuff, but you know, if there's something super challenging that you've done, what's something that challenged you mentally, physically, let us know down there. As I said earlier, this video is sponsored by Built Bar. Built Bars are my favorite post-workout protein bars. Hands down, the best tasting power bar that I have ever had. Legitimately. They've got a ton of different flavors, like 18 different flavors. They're coated in real chocolate. There's no preservatives, and it's made up of all natural flavors. The macros are solid, 17 grams of protein and 18 grams of carbohydrates. If you guys are looking for a post-workout snack or just a guilt-free bar, something that is filling, that's actually, you know, pretty good for you, click the link in the description below. All right, guys, that's gonna be it for this episode of Cody's Classroom. Thank you all for watching. As always, follow me on social media at Cody Miller on Instagram. Vlogs every Wednesdays. Please, if you haven't already, click that subscribe button and become a member of our swim family. We have merch on the merch store, and if you want to get a video from me to you for whatever reason, I'm on Cameo. Cody's Classroom airs Fridays, and until my next video, I will see you guys later.